Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Just Law on IQRA TV. I'm your host Ilyas Bulbulia and this is the second part to the show. Just before we took our break, we had a number of calls relating to immigration matter and hopefully we tried to we did deal with those as best we can. We've got a couple of points outstanding from some of the questions that were asked, and I'm going to try and address those before we look at the topic for today. But as always, if you've got a query, question, concern, whatever it is, please do give us a call and we'll look at that. We've got calls waiting, so let's turn to that first. Hello, hello, assalamu alaikum.
Hello, welcome salam. My question is that I got my spouse visa in 2015, and I'm looking to apply for a further extension in 2018. Yeah. The thing is that my husband's earning less than 18,600. He's earning now 17,500. Okay. So what are the other possible things, like what we can do to meet the financial requirements?
I understand. When does the visa expire in 2018?
It's in August 2018.
August, so there's a bit of time left at the moment.
Yes.
And so in terms of your husband's income, I think you're saying it's about 17,500
Yes,
pounds.
it is.
Do you have any children at the moment?
Yeah, I have one baby girl.
One baby girl, all right, okay. The basic position is this: even if you're not able to meet the requirements, the Home Office will grant you a visa. So there's no problem with that. Based on the fact that you've got a baby girl, you will be granted a visa. But the problem is that the visa that they grant is then under the 10-year route. So instead of you being able to qualify for settlement after a total of 5 years, you would only be able to qualify for settlement after 10 years.
Like the indefinite that I'll apply then would be after 10 years.
After 10 years. So it's if you can avoid it, you should try and avoid it and do whatever you can. Now, you do have a couple of options. One is even if you are able to show a part-time job for yourself, even if it's just £3,000-4,000 a year, £2,000-3,000 a year, as long as you get your wage slips and the money is going into your account, you can obviously combine your husband's income with your income and meet the requirement. That's one option. There's another option, which is to use cash savings. So if you're short by about £1,000, you would need cash savings in the region of £19,000, 19 to 20,000 pounds. It's something in that region. The point is, the money would have to be in your account for 6 months.
Right.
So that's the reason I was asking, when does your visa expire? So there is sufficient time to do that. And and the money is meant to be your own, but if somebody was to gift you the money, and the money has to be in your account or your husband's account or your joint account. So if the money went into that account, again, that's how you can demonstrate your husband's income plus there's a calculation, the cash savings. But it would have to be something in the region of 19 to 20.
And it should be for 6 months.
The money would have to be 6 months.
And the other question is that before I'm looking to get my master's degree recognized by IQRA as well for the English language requirement.
Yep, I understand.
The medium of instruction was obviously English. So if that's recognized, do I still need to give an English test as well? Or
no, you don't. Then you don't need to do it. All you then need to submit is your master's degree, the letter from IQRA confirming that it is comparable to a bachelor's or a master's degree, whatever it is, it's comparable to that degree. And I think from recollection, you would need a letter from the university as well.
From which I did my master's.
Yes, and it's the university that does a letter which confirming that the medium of instruction was English. That's my recollection of that's the three documents that you would need. And if that's the case, you don't need to do the A2 test. The reason that sometimes we just say to the clients, just do the A2 test is the A2 test costs about £150 to do. And to get the comparability certificate, I think costs about £60-70, plus you've got to go back to your old university and get a letter from there. So unless you've got a bit of time, if you're short of time, it just can't be done in time. So I just say to people, just do the A2. But your English is perfect. So
so if I look at this option, it should be okay. 100%. Like if I'm able to get the letters and all.
And this is what comes in handy when you apply for indefinite leave, where you need the B1 certificate. This will come in handy if you've got it compared and you've got the NARIC comparability certificate and a letter. It'll come in handy then as well.
Thank you so much.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for your call. Thank you. Okay, that is about, again, spouse application, which was going to be the topic for today. I'm just going to return to two calls that we had just before the break. The first call was in relation to someone who is in receipt of disability living allowance, and what they were asking was, do you still need to meet the financial requirement, the £18,600 requirement? And I was saying, well, no, they don't need to meet the 18,600 requirement. So let's just look at that in slightly greater detail. Although they don't need to meet the 18,600 requirement, there is still another requirement which has to be met, and that is basically that there needs to be enough income coming in for the person in the UK and the person who's coming from abroad, so that they have enough income so that there's no recourse to public funds. And the test that they apply is basically this, that a couple in receipt of income support, how much would that couple receive? So normally, if it's a straightforward case where you've got a husband and wife situation, the income support rates are around £115. So although you don't need to meet the 18,600 requirement, the income support rate of £115 is what the income has to be in a situation where somebody is in receipt of a disability benefit, PIP, attendance allowance, carers allowance, etc. So you look at that benefit, you look at how much is coming in, and you look at whether there is a total of £115 coming in or not. If there isn't, you can include your employment, part-time employment, whatever it is you're allowed to do, and combine both. And as long as the combination of those two different bits of income, as long as that gets to the £115 a week, you would meet the requirement. So it's the lesser amount, it's the income support rate amount which would have to be met if you're in receipt of certain benefits such as disability living allowance, PIP, etc., and not the 18,600 requirement, which applies in most cases, which is the requirement in a standard spouse application. So that's one of the calls that we received where we didn't really go into much detail about how it worked. Now, the other call that we received was in relation to the documents which need to be submitted where somebody is in where somebody is employed but is employed through their limited company, and they were asking, well, what kind of documents would you need to submit in that situation? So just to give slightly more detail about that, you would normally need to submit the financial accounts for the company to show what the company's income has been for that year. You would need to submit all the bank statements for the company, which shows the money being paid out as a salary to the employee. So that's the business bank statements that would need to be submitted. You would need to submit your personal bank statements to show receipt of that level of income. You would then need to submit confirmation that you are a director of the company. So that's a printout that you get from the company's house report. You would also need to submit your tax return and your if you're VAT registered, your VAT return. If you've got your PAYE account reference number, you would submit that as well. So what the Home Office wants to do in that situation is that they want to be satisfied that it's not just you declaring this level of income. So you're not just producing 6 months wage slip, 6 months bank statements and saying, look, I've got a company, I'm earning enough money. What they want to do to be sure, and this is the reason why the extra checks have been introduced, is to say, look, we're not going to look at your income over 6 months, we'll look at it over 12 months, and we'll also look at what supporting documents relating to the company you need to submit. We'll look at those documents to see whether the company is in a position to maintain and to have paid this level of salary that it claims to have paid to you. So they've got extra checks built in by looking at income over a longer period and also looking at the company, its viability, its income, its taxes, etc. So that's what the Home Office is doing. In order to get the list of documents which need to be submitted, the best thing to do is go onto the Home Office website. The Home Office has a guidance note on this, and if you Google Appendix FM, which is where the rules are set out, Appendix FM SE guidance, that's Appendix FM SE specified evidence, that's what it stands for, SE guidance, and that is a document which is about 30-40 pages long. It's not the rules, so it's easier to read, and it's written in such a way that a layperson should be able to follow it. So if you look at that Appendix FM SE guidance, it will take you through how income has to be demonstrated or documented with spouse applications. And when you go through it, you will see when you have to show wage slips for normal employment, what you do when you've got cash savings, etc. And then towards the end, it deals specifically with somebody who operates a limited company and maybe takes a dividend or maybe takes a salary. It specifically addresses that situation and highlights which documents are mandatory, which documents are optional. And if you follow that guidance properly to the letter, hopefully you should hopefully succeed in making that application. Just a word of caution on that. If you're able to follow it, fantastic. If not, what I would recommend, that because it is a slightly more complicated application than a normal application, you do get advice from somebody who's more used to doing these kind of applications. If nothing else, just get your application checked just to make sure that the requirements have been met. But if you want to do it yourself, the starting point really is Appendix FM SE guidance, which is on the Home Office website, which lists specifically what you need to be submitting with your application. So that deals with those 2 points that were raised in questions in the first part of our show, which we weren't able to deal with in greater detail. We've got a call waiting, so let's take that. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Ji, walaikum salam ji. Thank you for calling. What's your question?
मेरा पूछना ये है कि आजकल कोई ये जो इलीगल यहाँ पे फैमिलीज के साथ 10 साल 11 साल हो गए जिन लोगों को, उनके लिए कुछ नहीं कर रही है गवर्नमेंट? या
प्रॉब्लम है कि अभी तक तो कुछ नहीं हुआ। ये जो है ना, ये जो रूल्स जो अभी आए हैं ना, ये कि 20 इयर्स उसको रहना पड़ता है अगर वो सिंगल है, अगर or if somebody is here with a family with children, you might have to live here for 7 years and make an application based on the children's residence for 7 years, etc. This was introduced by the government 5 years ago in 2012. Since then, there's been no other flexibility to the rules introduced at all. So at the moment, unfortunately, there's nothing else that's been introduced. We're stuck with the old 2012 more stricter rules. We'll take our next call. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम सलाम
जी भाई, थैंक यू फॉर कॉलिंग। जी भाई, व्हाट्स योर क्वेश्चन?
जी मेरे लिए 2 क्वेश्चन हैं
जी।
मेरी वाइफ का वीज़ा नेक्स्ट ईयर एक्सपायर हो रहा है, स्पाउस वीज़ा 2 मार्च को
जी। ओके,
तो अर्लीस्ट अपॉइंटमेंट वी कैन मेक ऑन 2 February.
2nd February, isn't it? It's better if you make it the 4th of February.
All right.
Because in the rules, it does say the application shouldn't be made more than 28 days before, right? But there are some places where it says the application can be made a month before. But I'd rather go with 28 days before, which is the old tried and tested rule. Okay, you can make an application 28 days before. So 2nd of March, say, if you just go back 28 days, actually February will have 28 days. So the 2nd of February may actually be the right date.
All right.
So I think this February it is only 28 days as normal. It's not a leap year, so it would be the 2nd of February. You're quite right.
And sorry, and also second question is, my wife, we're getting spouse extension visa in March, February 2018, but her passport expiring in 2019.
Ji.
So what we have to do then?
Right. You know when they grant this extension, they will what they will do is issue a biometric card. So the visa that will be granted this time round will not be in the passport.
Okay.
It may be at the moment the visa that's been granted is in your wife's passport. There's a vignette, there's a sticker in the wife's passport. They won't do this this time round for the extension. What they will do is give her a biometric card. So even if the passport expires, it doesn't matter. The confirmation of the visa is in a separate independent document, a biometric card. So even when you extend the passport, it doesn't matter. The visa that's been granted, that's intact. There's nothing that you need to do with that.
So for indefinite, we don't need a passport then?
For indefinite, you don't need a passport. An expired passport is acceptable for the visa application, because what the rules say is that it should be a valid passport or an expired passport. They've amended the rules so expired passports are acceptable. But in my view, when you get to indefinite leave, if the passport has expired, you might as well make the passport. It helps to have a passport which follows on one from another, even when you make a nationality application later on, where you've got passports which follow one follows the other. It's easier to get nationality as well. Where there's a gap, sometimes you can be asked to produce more evidence of the fact that you haven't travelled in that gap. So my view is, okay, although it's not necessary to have that passport, it's probably better to get the passport if you can get it. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for your call. Hope that answers your question. So just now, going back to what we were discussing at the outset, which was basically spouse applications and what we need to do in order to make a successful spouse application. And in terms of the requirements, I think one of the issues that we've already looked at is this issue about income. And it might be better if we concentrate today in the remaining sort of few minutes that we have. I mean, if we've got calls, fantastic. Let's keep having the calls coming in. But let's look at the income requirement, because that's the focus of many of the questions in the first part of the show and now as well. So the starting point always is that the income requirement is 18,600. Before I go into that in greater detail, let me take the next call. Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, I'm looking for advice for, I got indefinitely remain.
Okay.
As for domestic violence.
Okay.
When I can apply for nationality? Is 5 years or I already passed 3 years?
Okay. Have you married again or?
No, not.
No. I understand. Okay. Now, if that's the case, have you divorced from your partner?
Yes.
Yes, you have. Okay. Then, in this kind of situation where you are basically making the nationality application on your own as an independent person, in that case, you need to have lived in the UK for 5 years. So that's the starting point. You require 5 years residence. In addition to that, you need to have had indefinite leave for 1 year. So it could be that you've lived here 3 years and you've got indefinite leave now. Okay.
No. And I got indefinite leave remain 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Okay. Fantastic. So it meets the second requirement, that you need to have held indefinite leave for 1 year. It meets that requirement. It's only that first requirement which we need to meet, which is that you need to have lived in the UK for a total of 5 years. So what you do is you look at, you count 5 years from the date you came to the United Kingdom, and you will be able to make the application on the day you came to the United Kingdom or the day after. I'll just be on the safe side and make it the day after you came.
And I have to do all English test, everything?
Yes. Those requirements, although they weren't required for getting indefinite leave under the domestic violence concessionary rules, they are required for nationality. So yes, you will have to meet the English language requirement for the nationality application. So you will have to do the Life in the UK test, and you will have to do the B1 test in English as well. So both will have to be done. And just finally, so we've looked at residence, we've looked at the English language requirement as well. and then finally, assuming there's no issues about criminality, etc., then finally they will also look at how much time you have been outside the UK. In the final year, you shouldn't be outside the UK for 90 days or more, although they will allow you to be outside the UK for 100 days. And then they will look at your residence over the last 5 years as well. Approximately, off the top of my head, you can be outside the UK for a total of approximately 15 months in the total 5 years. So if that's not the issue, then all you need to do is wait till you've been in the UK for 5 years and also pass the English language test, life in the UK test, and then make the application. Hopefully it should be successful at that stage.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? No problem at all. Thank you very much for your call. We'll take our next call. Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Hi, my name is Prabdeep Kaur Samra.
Ji.
I want to talk about my visa. You know, we have my hearing in 6th of November.
Okay.
And Home Office not in there in a court. And judge give a decision in our hand.
Okay.
So we win appeal.
Okay.
And Home Office not in appeal now.
I understand.
So now, after I think 20 days, Home Office send me one letter. They want for passport photograph. So can you tell me why they want passport photograph and how long they take give me a visa?
I understand. You see, sometimes it depends on the type of application that you had made and what the appeal was about. So what was the application that you'd made which had been refused and which was the subject of the appeal?
It was in my spouse visa.
Okay, all right. It was a spouse visa.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. To be quite honest, it is unusual to request passport-size photographs in a spouse visa because the photos were submitted initially with the application. So it is unusual. I think it must be because a long time has passed since the application was made.
In 2013, I submit everything and is appeals and appeals.
I understand. I think that's why they're asking for photographs because of the time that's passed. It's 4 years since the original application was made. So obviously appearances change in 4 years. So the good news is if they've asked for 4 passport size photographs, your case has gone to the department which actually processes the appeals and instructs the biometric card to be prepared. So it's gone to the right department.
Okay, and one thing is, sorry about this, interrupting you, and one problem is I submit my passport in 2013 and my passport is expired 2015, so what I can do now?
It's not a problem. The visa will be granted to you and will be confirmed on a biometric card. So the visa will not be in your passport. You will be issued a biometric card. So it doesn't matter that the passport has expired. But as I said, the good news is some people wait a long time before it gets to this department. They make you wait a long time, unfortunately. But if they've asked for your photographs, it looks like you're about to be granted the visa and you should be receiving, hopefully, your biometric card soon. Time estimate, once you've submitted the passport size photographs, I would say within 2 to 3 weeks, you should get your biometric card. So hopefully it won't be much longer that you have to wait for.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for your call. Thank you very much. So there you go. A lot of people asking today about expired passports, whether passports need to be up to date, etc. The key point here is that when a visa is granted, unlike what used to happen before, the visa is no longer granted by way of a sticker in your passport. That practice has really stopped now. The visa is granted now, or the confirmation of the visa is on a biometric card now. So it doesn't matter if your passport expires because the visa will be on a biometric card. So hopefully there's one less thing to worry about. You don't need to rush and make a passport because you're about to be granted a visa. That nearly brings us to the end of the show. Hopefully what we'll do tomorrow is, next week on Monday, is look at the topic which we were going to discuss today, which is how to make a successful spouse application. A lot of questions about spouse applications. So we'll try and look at that in greater detail look at the financial requirements, etc. We'll do that next week on Monday at 6 o'clock. But until then, inshallah, I hope you have a good week. Assalamu alaikum.